Welcome in, everyone. Happy Saturday night. I'm going to sit here for a few minutes and see who walks in. I'm going to go over to my lives and um, go in here so I can see comments because us old Foster Farm chickens. Oh, maybe that wasn't a great idea. I'm going to shrink it down. That way I can see your guys' comments when you come in. Tonight, I want to talk about rewiring the brain. I want to talk about the process, the change process, something I believe passionately in, and I believe I help people every day in doing that. Welcome in. Thank you for joining. Um, Feel free to ask questions or comments as we go through this process tonight. I'm going to give it like 5 minutes. Enjoy my cookies and my cup of coffee. It's been a long day at work. I realize these things take some time to get up to speed and filter out into the universe, so I don't want to just hit and run. I want to spend some time tonight. I made a commitment to be here on Saturday nights with everyone, and I'm going to continue to keep that commitment. I believe Wednesday, I'm setting up Wednesdays. Let me check my calendar real quick. Because when you start to get busy, you have to start doing this calendar stuff. Hopefully, you'll all get that chance as we move forward in this journey called life. Put that there. So, yep, we're going to be doing Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, and Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Those are my commitment times to all of you. Moving forward, and hope to see more and more show up. I know it's a slow process. It's Saturday night, and everybody's out there doing whatever they do. Hey, thank you for the hearts and the likes. Appreciate it. Sugarmon, peace. Welcome in. Welcome home. Welcome to the station, everyone. Um, I've been working. Did 2 recovery groups this morning in Los Angeles. Came home, finished some clinical notes because it's my life. And now I'm here to share a message of hope with a lot of you here today on how I didn't want to talk about addiction tonight. I will, but I won't, if that makes sense. And stick with me for a little while. Feel free to ask questions. Yeah, thank you. I, Addiction is nothing more than a habit gone wrong. And what a habit is it's a learned behavior, something you do over and over. So something that you've done over and over that's getting you negative results in your lives, it's maybe time to start fighting back and taking your life back. Rewiring your brain, I like to call it. I'm building workshops around that. I'm building resources around that. I actually have a resource guide. If any of you are interested in more information on how to begin a process of change right where you're at right now, if you drop me your email in a private DM or email me at info@lifeoveraddiction, I'll send it to you. We can start a conversation about changing your life. That's what this is about. Most of my work isn't about drugs and alcohol or other behavioral addictions. All right, brother. Mason, Richard, welcome. Yeah, most of the problems with humanity and all of us, whether you're an addict, an alcoholic, or just an average Joe, is that we get locked into patterns or ways of being. Everything we do is programmed. We're programmable beings. And sometimes that program gets warped by life experiences, by situations. And when we start to grow those warped neural pathways or belief systems, it begins to impact our lives in negative ways. Let's take feelings and emotions. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about that, but they're a great place to jumping off in this explanation. Feelings and emotions are a normal human experience. They were given to us as humanity to help us navigate things that we can't navigate without them in a healthy way. But as little boys, maybe it was your dad, uncle, somebody, maybe not, but let's just pretend, told you that boys don't show emotion, boys don't cry, suck it up, be a soldier, be a man. And you heard that from the age of 3 to 20. Guess what your neural pathway is going to be? Men don't show emotion, men don't cry. And yet we go through life with that neural pathway and that belief, but behind it, inside here, we're suppressing these feelings and emotions that are a natural part of our humanity. Can you see the problem bumping up on one another in there? And when somebody doesn't know how to deal with that space, and they maybe drink a little bit, smoke a little bit, do a little bit, and it gives them some form of relief, they do it again and they do it again. And now you're attaching something in a substance or a behavior as a coping mechanism to deal with something that you shouldn't have had to deal with in the first place. And so, if we can have a conversation about learning how to express and communicate feelings and emotions in a healthy way and actually practice that and see that we don't die and we're not weak for communicating those things, we rewire our brain to accept that as our new normal. It will still be difficult for a while in certain circumstances to express ourselves, but the more we work at it, the better off we'll be. Does that make sense? Hopefully, some folks stuck around. I saw 14 jump in and then a bunch jumped out. But questions, anybody? Let me go over here and see. I saw a few people chimed in. Um, Again, I'm an addiction specialist, but I don't think addiction is just about drugs and alcohol. I think the bigger addiction is to this: what we think, what we feel, our beliefs, manners, and habits, and the destructive behaviors that those create in our lives. Does anybody out there right now watching this? I see 4 people online right now. Well, yeah, is it 3? No, it's 4. Good. Welcome. Do you struggle with something in your life that you can't change or struggle changing? Oh man, cigarettes is a mofo. I did actually a video. If you look at my shorts, there's a video on tobacco. Be careful when you watch it because it's kind of ugly. Um, I quit smoking cigarettes in '87. It was one of the hardest things I had ever done. It was easier to quit drugs and alcohol than cigarettes, and that's just being honest. And I will say this: it was actually harder to quit these negative thinking and behavior patterns I had. That was harder than tobacco because these were who I was. This is who I was. This is what I believed. Tobacco was just this thing I did. When you smoke tobacco, it's one of the most addictive substances on the planet. It's legal because they make money off of it. How'd I quit? Wasn't the average way most people quit. I had been trying to get sober from alcohol and drugs, but I still smoked. And I was going to a church. Try faith, whatever. You know what I mean? It was like one of those phases I was going through in my recovery journey. And everybody was saying I needed to quit tobacco. I needed to quit tobacco. And I'm like, nope, I gave up everything else. Just leave that alone. It's legal. I don't want to be bothered. And within about 2 weeks, I got sick. I don't know if you've ever been really lung sick, like where you're coughing up garbage, but it was like the worst lung cold bug I'd ever had in my life. And I just couldn't smoke. I just couldn't. It wouldn't. I just wasn't there. And I got past that in about a week or two, give or take. That cough lingered because there was a lot of stuff built up in my lungs. No intoxication of any kind is sign of great discipline. Ooh, hold that thought. Don't go nowhere. I'm gonna come back to that. I really like that. And discipline is a big part of it, but it's a lot more. And I would love to engage in that conversation because I believe that, and I also think there's more to it. Um, it's called commitment and intention, and I agree with you. But back to the tobacco. So what happened is I thought maybe a month later I'll smoke a cigarette. It didn't taste good at all. I remember one day when I was in that space, I remember somebody threw like a cigarette in a glass of water and I saw that stuff leaching out of it. And I was just kind of like, no, I don't want this anymore. One, today you guys are spending like 10, 12 bucks for a pack of cigarettes, which is crazy to me because that'd be like what, $300 a month minimum for tobacco? That's a lot of money. That's like half a rent for some people in this country. So, quitting tobacco, there are different ways to go about it. There are medical techniques. There's a an anonymous group for that. I'm sure if we had looked it up, I could find it for you. But for me, with tobacco, it's maybe replacing it with something like gum, candy. It's gonna be like one of those things where you're used to like first thing in the morning is gonna be hard. Got to sneeze. Ooh, that was gonna be there. Ooh, that burning nose. The mornings is usually the hardest, or after a meal. Those are the times when that craving comes because your blood flow when you eat is stimulated, or when you first wake up, you haven't had that substance in your mind or in your body, and it craves it because it's an addictive substance. And if you can just not smoke and be disciplined for a week and do something alternate like candy or gum or snacks or and maybe even try some of the patches and wean down. I mean, there's also that possibility to help with that detox from tobacco. You can do it. I believe that. I did it. Maybe I had a little help, but I detoxed from it. And I know a lot of people have quit smoking and have healthier lungs, healthier lives, and they have a little bit more money in their pocket. Um, Let me see. Darth Severus, the sorcerer. I love your name, bro. Um, you want to know us? Oh, that's a whole. I love that. Thoughts and words are a way of creating an illusion that may or may not be real. You said no intoxication of any kind is a sign of great discipline. Um, yes, I've been sober since March 11th, 1993. I haven't taken any substance or drank anything to alter the space in here intentionally or otherwise. Um, I just couldn't anymore. I was broken. I reached a place in my life where there was no way out. I had no hope, but I knew that drugs and alcohol and the behavioral addictions and the way I was living weren't working, and I needed something different. Now, here's the truth. I didn't know, let me look at your words here. I didn't know what the discipline was going to look like. I didn't know what the path was going to be like for me getting sober and moving forward. Um, I had to have help. You know, it's like, how do you learn martial arts, which is a discipline? You go and you train and you follow and study under somebody and learn martial arts or boxing or any other craft that we might do in life. It takes a discipline, but it also takes asking for and following directions and guidance, being a student. And a lot of people don't like to do that, but those that do succeed. I know for me, in 93, just being sober wasn't going to be enough. I knew I had a problem, but I didn't really have a solution. And just white knuckling it and not changing or healing the wounds in my soul and the brokenness in my mind and my belief systems, I wouldn't be sober here having a conversation with you. And I needed the help of people around me to guide me through a process, both therapy and recovery, to regain my life, to identify what didn't work, to help me see what I needed to practice that will work, and supported me in practicing those new things. And today, as a result of that, I've been sober over 32 years. I have a lot of friends just like me that did the same process and were living around the world successful. But it is a process. And no intoxication is just the beginning. Anybody can get sober, but are they really sober if they're still carrying all these broken thoughts and beliefs, manners, and habits, or the wounds of the soul that created them? Can they really be sober and disciplined? Or is that not a form of intoxication itself within the soul or the brain? That's a question. What do you think there, Darth Severus? Curious. I don't know if that answered your question, but I hope it supported your question in your statement. I have to also ask anybody chiming in just because I need to, because I love and appreciate you being here. If you could subscribe and follow my channel and help me grow it by sharing it with others, it would mean a lot to me and a lot to the people we've made a commitment to helping. You know, it's not just about me. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm getting paid here to my heart. My payment is my heart because I know some of you have a loved one, a family member, a friend that's struggling with alcohol or substance or some other life problem. It could be mental health. And people can get trapped in it and don't know how to get out. There's help. There's help for anything we're dealing with. We just have to ask for help or ask for support in helping our loved ones. And a lot of times, families don't want to step into it because they've just been so beat up. They just say, no, we'll just act like it's not happening. We'll just say, get a job, do better, whatever. But we don't understand when somebody's in the struggle, they're in the struggle and they need help. And if a family's diving into that, guess what? The family needs help too. And a lot of times, families don't have the help they need. Oftentimes, I end up educating families more than I do their loved ones because their loved ones get the problem, families don't. But once the families understand what's going on, they tend to jump on board and want to make an impactful, be an impactful part of their loved ones' lives. Any more thoughts or questions from anybody? I really appreciate you guys chiming in and putting stuff in here for me. Um, I don't know who's still on and who isn't because I don't have all that. I'm not a really newfangled technology guy. Welcome in. Oh, there you go. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Mm, wow. I like that a lot. The four. Have you read that book, the Four Agreements? That's pretty much an amazing book about finding soul. This is a sidebar. Let me look at this again. I'm reading your thing. Mm. Being God conscious. Hmm. Maybe you'd like to share where you're at on that path. Maybe share in the comments where you're at on that path. Anybody can chime in on these things. This is an open forum for us to talk about transformation, rewiring our lives, recommitting to source, which whatever that is for you. I don't force people on anything or make anybody think the way I think. But what is that for you? A God conscious. Wow. I'm going to share a story, then I'll share a little bit about my story. I was raised Christian. I don't push that on people because I don't believe that we should push that on people. I think we should just respect other people's space. If they want to learn, they can. If they want to believe, they can. It shouldn't be a forced thing or an agenda. But I grew up Christian and I knew about this God. I knew about the Bible. I knew about churches and all that stuff. But I was really never connected to it. It was kind of this thing I knew, but never really knew. I didn't have a relationship with it. And so, I mean, there was this belief in the backdrop. And there were moments in my life where I believe there's been some signs, some interactions, some divine providence that leaves me no doubt that there's something bigger than me in the universe. And for me, I prefer to call that God. Um, but I remember March 11th, 93 on my knees in an ad seg cell inside prison. And I was hopeless. I was broken. And I think this is where the journey of what you're talking about with God conscious really honestly began with me. Is it wasn't any longer a belief, it was a commitment. Because I remember saying on my knees at about 1:30 in the morning that day, God, I can't live a decent life and continue to do the things I'm doing. Help me. Amen. Well, for me, the ultimate high is my life right now. My freedom, the freedom in here, the freedom in here, the freedom to make choices, the freedom to do whatever I want and be free. Freedom for me is the highest thing. That doesn't mean, you don't have to work for it, but freedom is a very important principle in that for me. The ultimate high for me is to know that I'm no longer in the chains or shackles of my past, that it doesn't define me. I don't need other people to tell me who I am. I know who I am. There's a strength in that. That is a high to know you can like me today and hate me tomorrow, and I'm going to be okay with that. And I will respect it. And I will have a conversation if you want to about that, but I won't be offended. I won't be hurt because I know who I am finally. And that's a big, big thing. That was huge for me. But back to that four principles in that God conscious. So that morning when I said that prayer, God, I can't live a decent life and continue to do the things I'm doing. Help me. A series of events have happened since that point in my life. It wasn't like a shining light or an aha, bright light experience, but it was these little shifts, these little movements. People would come into my life and say things that just kind of touched me differently. I felt different. I mean, I was forgiven by somebody I hurt, and I couldn't understand forgiveness, yet they gave it to me. But they also said, we don't understand how you could have done this. And I didn't have a real clue, and I wasn't blaming it on drugs and alcohol. So now I've been forgiven, and I've been given a question I don't have an answer to. But I had surrendered. I had given up and acknowledged I had a problem, that my wiring wasn't running properly, and it was bigger than drugs and alcohol. And shortly thereafter, I ended up in another location, and I was with a roommate that said, hey, because when you're in a cell, you talk. What else are you going to do? Watch TV or sleep or talk? And we're talking about our life experiences. Some of you know what that's like when you're sitting with somebody that has similar disasters. And this kid who looked like Opie Taylor just said, you should go to those meetings. And so I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, they got these AA meetings over here in education. I'm like, that stuff doesn't work. And I remember like almost like a video of it in my mind. He goes, look, I'll go with you. And I'm like, here's some normie, non-drug addict willing to take me to an AA meeting in prison. How effed up am I? And so I went. I heard God's voice speaking through this roommate, Opie Taylor, I call him. And I'm going to these meetings. I don't think it works. I'm doing what most do and just trying to go through the motions, manipulate. I can memorize stuff. I could quote stuff, but nothing's really changing because I don't know how to apply it. I've never tried, and to be honest, I don't think it really works because I've never seen it work. And so I was going to this place for like 3 months, and a guy shows up in a room that was new. And he opened his mouth, and when he talked, he didn't talk about the big book or the 12 steps or any of that. He talked about pain. He talked about how his life was going so well, but there was these little moments of pain that began to take him off course. His mind and his way of being and how he was as a human being began to shift the harder and harder these experiences were. The more brokenhearted, the more disappointed he became, he went off track. And eventually ended up in prison, a pretty high level gang member. And he says it was in that place that, some things started to shift for him. And he said he was in a cell and a nun told him he wasn't going to die. And he told her, nah, get out of here, and gave her a bunch of crap. And she left him a prayer card. Well, he was on death row when she visited him. And that year on December 7th, the death penalty in California was ruled unconstitutional. And he was like, what? It just happened to be his birthday. And he got that prayer card down, and it was the prayer card it was the prayer of Cardinal Henry Newman, and I'm horrible at paraphrasing it, but it was like, God knows what he's about. He might take away your friends, your family, your success, cast you into darkness, but yet he knows who he's about. And at the end of all of this, he's like, he has a purpose just for you that only is for you, and that is what your path is. And I guess Richard bought into that, and ended up in another place. And he went through all these things. At the end of his thing, it was like this guy knew something. And it was like second stage for me. It's like I knew I had a problem and I was surrendered to it. I didn't have a solution, but this guy did. That was kind of that second God consciousness that there's hope. I made a commitment to surrender and now I'm seeing hope. I'm with you. This is how I'm getting back to it. Can you see how this is working in like real time in a crazy way through somebody's personal life? Maybe I get you on here and you share yours because I think that would be amazing too. But so I meet this guy. I really don't have the God consciousness, but I probably have a God awareness. I've surrendered to a problem in my life. I see somebody's changed their life that was like me, and I began to follow them. I that very well is true. But not everybody may believe that, and I agree. And so when I'm sharing, it's more like I want them to connect in a real human way, like we're talking about now, and see that, yeah, there's an acknowledgement. There's like almost like a faith moment when you see something that's possible, and then you step into it. You that discipline of following direction, of doing things differently than I've ever done them, and in that process, the more I did it, this change process, I began to see change in my life. I began to see something within me I had never seen. And I do call it, I would say that is that God conscious within me. And the more I did, I was not only changing my life, but I was helping others change. And I saw a purpose for my life. My God conscious, my place, my discipline is this. I will die doing this work because somebody did it for me. God spoke through, as my mentor would say, God spoke through my mentor's experiences, his pain, his hurt, his journey of change, so that I could find mine and learn my discipline. And today I have no doubt that I have a relationship with God at a deeper level than I have ever had it. I'm very humble and grateful for that. And I live it. And then I talk about it. But I talk about it in a healing way because a lot of times when people are wounded and hurt, and maybe this is something maybe you could comment on, when somebody is wounded and hurt and they carry a lot of shame, a lot of self indignation, talking about God can be a very difficult place. I mean, the last place I want to go when I feel dirty and just yucked is church. So we talk about a better life. We help them connect to that God consciousness in their own life through action, through process, to show them that they are a good person. There's something bigger in life guiding and keeping them in their care and protection. While they're being responsible to be disciplined in their life and do something different, that is a path that I have found that works. And almost every time, the individual will find some place or some connection with God that they didn't have before. Spirit, whatever that God is to them. I don't push that on people, but I believe that without a shadow of a doubt, that's a big part of the journey. And really, yeah, I guess I'm going to go back to the rewiring of the brain. If I grew up feeling like I was a little bastard kid, nobody loved me, my parents were really non-existent, you know, hey Bryce, welcome in, man, brother. We're just talking about like God conscious recovery, addiction. You know how I am. I love this stuff. Welcome. Glad to see you made it. And so, it's in this place of helping people come out of a darkness. And you don't shine a bright light in somebody's eyes in the darkness because they're going to recoil and maybe run away, especially if there's a lot of shame attached to it. You want to welcome them. You want to have compassion and empathy to their humanness, to their brokenness. We don't beat our wounded. And so, a lot of times, people have to be held for a while in a sacred place until they can walk. And once they learn to walk and they start to change the wiring or their belief systems about life and themselves in it, something shifts. They're aware that it's not just them anymore, that maybe the God consciousness that they initially get is God speaking through your experience to help them. I'm blessed, brother. I just appreciate you stopping by and visiting for a moment. I'm going to make a commitment, and so everybody's on here, just so you know, I'm going to be doing this on Saturday nights and Wednesday nights. That's my commitment. I'm going to be here. I hope you guys come back with questions, shares. If there's something you want to have a live conversation with me on and join, let's talk about it. You can email me, look at my beacons. You can email me at my email. We can set up a discourse to really maybe help people because that's what I want this platform to be about. It's not just about me, it's about us. I appreciate you stopping by, Bryce. So again, going back to these folks that I help every day, it's a process back to that God consciousness. And it has to be done with love and compassion, but also truth. It has to be honest, it has to be genuine, it has to be authentic. And oftentimes, I don't find people have a problem with that approach. And at some point, they're appreciative of the journey, the restoration of the mind and the body and the soul, that God conscious place that they never had or maybe lost and didn't think they would ever get back. Um, hopefully that's connecting. You know, you can let me know, Darth Severus, does that ring or is that kind of, I kind of get where you're at and I'm trying to let you know what I'm doing. Ooh, I like that. Yes. Let me read that again. I wish I could blow my thing up where I could see these things better. Um, the false self. Ooh, we could go down a rabbit hole with that one, especially this time of year or where we're at in life in the universe. Um, ooh, I really like that. Well, let me see if this makes sense. A false self with a false self. As a little boy growing up, that's all I knew. I knew what my parents did or didn't do. I knew what society labeled me. I knew what the school system labeled me. I knew what I labeled me. And today I can look back on it and see that it was false. But then, as a little boy, it was very real. And as a broken little boy in a really broken, really little life that didn't have someone like you or someone like me that understood this, I evolved out of that primordial ooze of my youth, for lack of a better word. And it led me into negative things because I started to look for my identity, myself in people, places, and things. I needed you to validate me. I needed to have those shoes, that baseball mitt, that girl, the drugs, the money, the power, the influence. All those things were false, but they were who I was and all I knew. And until 93, when it was stripped away and there was nothing left but me and my knees in that cell with God, I didn't know any better. And that's the truth. All I knew was that. And it was interesting because what you're talking about right now and going back over this is when I said, God, I can't live a decent life and continue to do the things I'm doing, that surrender moment to this path, there was a moment there where I was kind of looking at myself, kind of out of body, kind of there, going, this is not who I am. I knew that truth that you're sharing about false self versus a God consciousness and that connection to the one existed. And I knew that this person I had been up to that point was not who I was. That's the truth. And at that point, when I surrendered to that space of just being open to whatever that might be, my journey began back to that God consciousness. It really isn't about me anymore. I've realized what my sponsor and mentor, elder, whatever you want to call him, used to say when he was helping us. He goes, it's not me helping you. It's God using my experiences and my pain and my hurt and my healing and my journey that's helped me to help you. It's not me, it's God using me to help you. And that was the highest, most humblest thing I had ever heard in my life. And today I get it. Does that resonate? Darth, was that kind of in the ballpark? I like the conversation. I do love the dialogue. I like talking about change. I like talking about real stuff. I mean, where you're going is like college level, where most of the people I work with every day are in sixth grade. And I really have to meet them where they're at and lead them to a place where they can even imagine that, to even believe that. And a lot of people, like, if you look at my live, the banner, you see my prison photo when I was 19, or no, I think I was 20, and who I am today. Two different people. That was my, what did you call it? That was my false self. That was an image I portrayed to protect myself, to fit in, to have validation, and it stole my life. Today, I'm my authentic self, my God conscious self, and I am so grateful for that. I don't even know if self's the right word for it. I work for something much bigger than me, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to be here tonight talking to you and engaging with you in it. Any more comments, thoughts, shares? Appreciate if you're looking in and any of this makes sense or helps. If you could subscribe and hit a like, your support goes a long way, and I appreciate you. It's late for coffee, but I worked hard today. So going back to, I mean, I can tie this into the topic for tonight because it really is that. My wiring up until I was 30 years old was based on a false sense of self that I created from a broken little boy that I was ashamed of. And I created an illusion of somebody I wasn't. And that illusion led me to pursuing and chasing validation and drugs and alcohol to cover up the wounds and the pain that I was causing to others and myself until I couldn't run anymore. And I would say the way that my brain was wired, because we are biological people that are programmable, our brains are programmable. What we believe, what we hold true is based on what we've learned and what we've been taught, or what we've seen, or what we've experienced. So up till 30 years old, my wiring was really messed up. And because of the journey from that morning, that prayer, that insight, that disconnect from who I was, wanting to be something different because I knew that wasn't who I was, things began to change. Things began to transform. Let me see. False ego. Can I read out this out loud? I'm going to read it out loud so I don't. It said false ego is when one identifies with bodily consciousness. The soul is originally God consciousness, but most people don't know about awaken of the spirit soul, which is a relationship with God. Yeah, I agree. Everything I knew up to the age of 30 was that false ego. I don't even know if false. Can it be false if I didn't know any better? That's a good question for you. If I don't know, I don't know. I'm a blank slate. Let's use your terminology. I'm a blank slate. I'm a God conscious blank slate. And from birth until 30, that slate and my life experiences of trauma, hurt, pain, drug and alcohol, and lifestyle addiction and abuse framed that false ego, my false identity. And I agree. And it took an epic movement in my life, a cataclysmic event, to shift that direction, to make me stop. And an awareness, maybe it was God blessing me that morning by showing me two different parts. One that I knew I wasn't me, that false ego, that false self. But he also said, I didn't know what this God consciousness, this God connection was in a very internal, personal way. I didn't have that. I had never had that. So how could it be false? Can we find a term of, yes, false is accurate, but I want to find a more definitive term for that. Because I work with addicts and alcoholics. I start throwing false stuff around and we're all going to lose the crew. That's just the truth. We're going to lose them all. And I don't mind, but I think that when we're losing them today, people are dying left and right out there. And I don't think God wants us to push people away with our verbiage or not meet them where they're at so they can learn to understand this God consciousness journey, to have that awaken in them in a process. Probably some folks ran away, but I'm still here and I ain't going nowhere for a minute. Because I like this conversation. I appreciate the engagement. False self. I'm going to go back to the word programming. It's what I knew. If somebody is programmed from birth in pain and hurt and abandonment and abuse, and the narrative and the belief about themselves and the world is skewed by that, am I to say that's false, or am I going to say that, I'll just use this, dark forces or people or circumstances shaped that person in such a way that that's who they were? I don't think that's a thing. On me. There we go. I'm going to use this. Can you hear me now? My little microphone thingy I got went out. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. That's a bummer. Oof. Let me see. Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah, the speaker technology. And I was just saying before I did this today that I was going to have to charge this stuff, but I worked like double shift this morning. I did like some groups for two different treatment centers, and then I had to come home and do family stuff and do my clinical notes. So my apologies for that gaffe. I'll be plugging that in after this show tonight. Appreciate you bringing that out. Let me go back in here. Yeah, I appreciate the conversation because it's really interesting. And it goes to that wiring. Because, see, here's the thing. It's interesting how we were created, how we were built. I think science is a wonderful thing in the physiological, earthly sense to understand why we do what we do. I think a lot of people don't understand what you and I, or what this conversation is about, of bringing it home to the heart, to the God consciousness, to a place that's sacred, that my life has meaning and purpose when I wake up in the morning and there's a connection and that I know what I'm about. People can't take that from me anymore. I'm not going to compromise that. I like to think of it as integrity, not just to myself, but to my higher power and to you. And that place is sacred. I don't mess with it. I could lose everything I have in life. If you took that away from me, it would be a dark day. That's sacred land for me in the soul. Um, any other thoughts, questions? God, let me see what time it is. We got another 15 minutes. I'd go an hour tonight because I do have to get up, and tomorrow's my hell day. I work 4 groups and no, wait, 4 groups, and I was supposed to meet with somebody tonight, but they never called me back. So that's probably one of the biggest disappointments I have in the world when I'm working with people is a lot of people can identify a problem in their life and want help. And I'll say, hey, just come by the house. I'll throw some steaks on the barbecue. We'll have a spread. We'll go in the studio right here. We'll sit down. We'll think about and start plotting out your life. Not only rewiring this, but rewiring this so that your life can become better. And I'll help you. I don't even like close friends and family. I'm like, I'll do it for free. That's how many show up. And it's like, come on, guys. It's like we talk about you got 4 flat tires and you want to change them and you don't know how. And I say, come over, and you never show up and you drive through life on 4 flat tires. It's the most frustrating thing to me. And it goes to that false ego, that false sense of I can't ask for help. I can't look stupid. I'll figure this out. What I have, I'm uncomfortable with, but the known uncomfortable is better than the unknown uncomfortable that leads to a better life, a better God consciousness, a better freedom. Oh, I want to agree, but I don't want to make a blanket statement either. And I know you get that. I don't want to discount that possibility, but I also believe that without work, it's impossible. Without really going deep within this, doing the deep soul work, the deep inner work here and in here, to really become aware that there is something and that you can have it and a commitment to it, I don't think anybody gets it. It doesn't have to be religion or the average Joe or Sue down the street. And that's the crazy part is I guarantee everybody that's wafted through here tonight, and maybe even both of us, have got problems in our lives. Maybe there's some blockages to what we're talking about in people's lives. We know, and yet we refuse to do anything about it. We choose to stay in the status quo, in the misery, in the despair, because it's what we know. And or I'm afraid of what it might look like over there because I've never been there. And that means I have to be responsible. I have to be disciplined. And I don't really want to do that. I'd rather come home, have a beer, put my feet up, maybe roll a joint, whatever people do, have dinner if you don't do those things, and watch a movie and go to bed and get up and do it all over again. And you're comfortable with that. But it's a very lonely life at some point if that's all you have. And the purpose and passion that you get from really looking within and transforming your soul and your thinking and finding solutions to those problems that you have, there's nothing like it. I can't compare anything to the path that I've led in my life. I'm a little older and been around a little bit longer than a lot of folks, but nobody can tell me you can't change. Nobody can tell me you can't have a better life. You can't find freedom. You can't have a God consciousness. You can't have a relationship with something bigger than yourself and have a purpose linked to that. And to allow that entity, that power, that consciousness to work through you and your experiences that have helped you get to where you're at to help other people. I can't think of any other greater gift I've gotten. I don't regret the things I've been through in life. It would have been nice to get there earlier or easier, but maybe that wasn't my path. Maybe the Creator, God, the universe, wanted me to go through the things I had to go through so I would be me. Because now all of the things that had me trapped, all of the things that the manipulations, the lies, the false ego, I know it. And I know when I play with it. And I know when I'm working with somebody when they're playing with it. And I don't have to really be rude or abrasive to help them see it, give them choice, and then let them make a choice. Do you want better or do you want more of the same? Unfortunately, a lot of people want more of the same. And the world, we have a lot of internal, I'll call it spiritual sickness, a spiritual malady, but it's directly linked to the fear of, I don't know, this is all I know, this is who I am, this is how I do it. And when somebody's stuck in that, it's pretty hard to penetrate that place because they're here and they're trapped in this and they're not thinking with this. Does that help? Does that make sense? I got about another 10 minutes, but I like this conversation. I appreciate it. I'm a little tired, but I'm grateful being here tonight and having this conversation. Anything else, Darth? Before I go? I mean, can you sum up if this kind of connected or, we're on the same page? Because I really appreciate the conversation, and I think it's probably a lot deeper than most people want to be in, but that's okay. Maybe just hearing it, it'll enlighten somebody to be inquisitive or inquire or be curious, which is a hope. And what this platform is really about is giving people hope that they can see a potential self that they don't know yet. That's really what recovery and sobriety and what we're talking about is about. Most people are still in darkness. I mean, the Bible says many are spiritually blind. I don't think that's a negative. I just think people are spiritually blind till they hit a wall and they're like, oh crap. And then they're like, wait a minute, I don't want this. And usually in that window, if they're open, help is available. It doesn't have to go to me. It can be just like, email me, we'll start working together. We'll figure a path out. That's what I do for a living privately with people. A lot of people hire me to just do that. They don't even have drugs and alcohol problems. They have life problems. They have thinking problems. They have belief problems, and they're trapped in it and they don't know a way out. That's the bulk of the work. Because if I do that well, drugs and alcohol I really don't need. I don't want to give up what I've gotten, and nor would you if you did the work. So kind of that's where I'm at tonight. Appreciate the conversation. It is rewiring the brain, though. I have to really rewire this to connect with this. This has always existed, as you said, but until this is cleaned up and attuned to this, I'm operating here and not here. And this is scary for a lot of people. This is connected to pain and hurt and trauma and stuff that's happened. I'd rather stay up here and just kind of like go here because remember, feelings and emotions, no. But when we can invite them to a conversation where the two meet and be humble enough, but honest enough and truthful enough with them, they will never want to give it up. Hopefully, you got something out of this if you were just watching, but I appreciate you, Darth, for chiming in and getting engaged in the conversation with me tonight. I am very humble and appreciate you, and I pray blessings upon you and yours and everybody that's here. Freedom is possible. Recovery is a lot of things. It's what we've talked about tonight and more. I think ultimately, recovery is about finding freedom. I think the prison of the soul is what I call that false ego. When I talk about the prison of the soul, a lot of people, that's all they know. And our job is to help them break out of that prison and find the freedom of the spirit and freedom of life and freedom and connection with God. And if we do that well, we might just save a life. If that's the whole point, if one life is saved by our conversation tonight or what we talk about when I'm live or when you're helping somebody, our life had purpose. And I pray tonight that you choose that path. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out to me or reach out to somebody like me, and let's start a new journey. Let's start a new conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And I hope to see you Wednesday night at 7 o'clock to continue the conversation. Until then, God bless and keep you always. Okay, let me come back here. I just saw you pop something in on me before I go. You're going to keep me here, ain't you? I ain't got a problem with it. Issue is people believe in one God but lack a single universal definition of who God is. Oh, now you're going into... Man, we might have to start a whole new other page, a whole another script, because that's real. It goes back to this. When I was raised and growing up, I believed what I was taught, what my mom took me to church. It was the Bible. It was this. That was what I was raised in. There are people raised in going to the mosque and having the Quran, and that's what they believe, and that's what they're raised in, and that's their concept. There's people that go to the synagogue and to Shabbat services on Friday nights, and they're raised in that, and that's what they believe, and that's their belief. That's their God consciousness in community and culture sometimes. But I also believe personally that God's much bigger than any one faith or any one culture. Even with my own beliefs, I would be limiting. Who am I to limit God? I could sit with any faith group or any group of people that are spiritual and have an amazing, wonderful conversation and not be offended and be blessed. Because I think like using a scripture from Torah or the Old Testament for Christians, when Moses was up on the mountain talking to God, the burning bush, and he made every excuse made to try to get out of being responsible to that calling, to that God consciousness that he already knew. He was sitting there talking to God. Come on. And at the end, he was a little sneaky. He tried to pull one over on God. And he's like, okay, I give up. I'll go. I'll go to Pharaoh. I'll do what you're telling me to do. But who am I going to tell Pharaoh sent me? I am that I am. He didn't say he was Jewish. He didn't say he was Christian. He didn't say he was Muslim. He didn't say he was Buddhist. He didn't say any of that. He said, I am that I am. And that place for me is a sacred place to understand God is bigger than any one of our concepts of him or her or it. And that it exists and it's there for us to connect to. And maybe it's connecting in your culture, in your religion, blessings. Or maybe it's seeing God as much bigger than one faith or one group of people. And I think that may be what you're getting to. I don't know if that made sense, Darth, but that's kind of my space with that. I'm not offended by any group of people or put off. Matter of fact, I've learned from every facet, every religion, something good or decent. I've also learned things that I won't adopt or don't want to follow because they don't fit with that God consciousness that I've developed in my own journey. You know, a lot of the elders went out in the desert for a long time to find that consciousness. Mine was a little different. My journey was a little different, but it was still a desert. I went through a lot of despair and dark nights to find my soul again and to find that God consciousness. So, is that on the same page, brother? Before I go, just give me a thumbs up. And hopefully you come back on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock and we'll continue the conversation. And if you email me or send me an email to my email, we'll start a conversation and talk about topics that, we can help people. Here's the deal, Darth. I love that you're here, and I appreciate you, and I agree with you at a deeper level that you and I, if we were out in the desert looking at the stars and having a conversation, could cry, we could laugh, and we could be grateful. Let's try to figure out a way of helping people move from the fake sense of self, addiction, society, validation, and all that exists, to find a path towards God consciousness that's theirs and that they're linked and connected to something bigger than them that gives them a sense of purpose and fulfillment in who they are in that consciousness. That's really what this is about. And it's the journey to that a lot of people are afraid of. Shame, guilt, trauma. There's a lot of things that block that path. I wish it was just so as easy as me going, here's a cookie. You want a cookie? It don't work like that. The people I work with every day, they're broken, they're hurting, they live in despair. They need love. They need love. That's a God consciousness they don't know. Many of them have lost that. How can I have a God consciousness when I live in shame and guilt and the fake self and the stories I tell myself or other people tell me? Where's my freedom? That's okay, brother. I'm just getting ready to shut it down, Yams, but you know what I mean? I appreciate you showing up. Dang. You guys are going to keep me up late tonight, man. I appreciate you. There's a long list of stuff to read up there, Yams. Go through that, scroll through that, and make a comment or give an opinion. But we're having a really good conversation. Darth here is keeping me on my toes tonight, and I really appreciate it because it's heart space. And I'm tired, so I'm trying to hang out a little bit longer because you came in late. But, you know, how are you doing over there, Yams? How's life for you? And also for you, Darth. I mean, outside of this conversation, how are you guys doing? I'm going to have a little piece of cookie right now because I need some sugar. I'm like to my pillow in a while. How's the situation with all of that right now? Is it getting better, or are you finding more strength in that space, or is it still a problem that created that? I don't want to put your personal business out, but you know, I respect anonymity, and if somebody wants to talk about something, I'm open to talking about anything for the most part, unless it's abrasive. Good, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. My prayers are with you for a speedy recovery, my friend. Appreciate you showing up. I mean, I was getting ready to go out and call it a night, go to hang out with my wife for a few minutes and go to bed. Oh, you want to see the baby again? Come here, Autumn. Oh, she knows you now. Come here. Oh, she thinks we're going in the house. Come here, Mama. Mama, come here. Come here. Come here, Autumn. I got to go get her because she thinks we're going in the house. Come over here. Come here. Come here, Mama. You're going to be a movie star. Come here. We got to go here. We got to go here. Come here. Come here. Oh, Mama. Mama, come here. Come on. You got to say goodnight. You got to say goodnight to Yam before we go to bed. Oh, there she is. There's my baby. This is Autumn. We adopted her when she was a little baby. Her mom, I guess the mom perished when she was little. Yam says hi. Right there. Oh, you bashful? Oh, you don't need to be bashful. She's a sweet dog, but she's got a lot of insecurity because as a puppy, when her mom died, there were 4 pups. And basically, the people that took them in had to nurse them back to health, and she's never known that connection to a mom. We're the closest thing she gets. So she sleeps right on you. She's always wanted to be connected. So, yeah, this is Miss Autumn. Say goodnight, Autumn. Oh, man, it's a blessing to have her. I'm going to post some videos of her and our cat that I adopted at the same time. It was a little kitten I adopted off the street that was in trouble. They're sisters. But that'll be over on my, I don't know if I'm allowed to really speak about other platforms on here, and I don't want to get in trouble because this is important to me. So, but yeah. I'm going to go live on Wednesday. I'm going to do Wednesdays and Saturday nights. Is that, you know, I want to, because tomorrow's my hell day. I have to really be gentle with myself. I do 4 process groups, and I'm going to be wore out. Wore out. Tomorrow night, I usually come home, I finish my notes, and I go to bed after a shower. So, and I will put out if you're subscribed, which I know you are, I'll put out a flyer probably tomorrow, or no, I'll probably put it out Monday when I get home from work. I'll put a flyer out with the new one coming up. It'll say live coming, and it'll be scheduled for Wednesday night. I think I'm going to keep this same topic going for a while because I really want to push rewiring the brain. It's something I've got a resource guide, 19 pages with some work that you can start to actually begin to do your own work in. It's a PDF I send for free to people. If you want it, email me at the info@lifeoveraddiction.com in the beacons or in my bio, and I'll send it to you. Yeah, Yams, you the man. I give you a shout out when you show up. You know that I've been talking to you. You've been here with me for a while, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everybody's support because this is how I feel I've been brought into a place with technology and stuff to reach more people and help people. And I want to grow this station. I want to reach more people. I want people to know they can change. I don't care if it's drugs, alcohol, problems in their lives, thinking, struggles. There is a way out. We just got to be dedicated and want to commit to something better for our lives. That's what this is about. And I appreciate you, Yams. And with that, I am going to go to bed. Actually, I'm going to go in and wash up and close down the office and relax with my wife a little bit and go to sleep because I'm up at 5 in the morning tomorrow, out at 6 and home about 5 o'clock tomorrow night. So until then, do I like robots? That's an interesting question. I don't know. They're kind of cool, but I've never, it's in the movies. Although AI and what they're doing, some of these companies, they're going to be robots. There already are robots, but it's going to be a lot more sophisticated. Good night, brother. Love you all. I hope to see you all Wednesday night. Bring a friend, recommend, share, and I will have a post up tomorrow night on this station about my next live. And I appreciate you all coming in, and I hope to see you soon. God bless and keep you till then.